Welcome to Lorien Live. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And I am actually thrilled to have the guest today, David, but most of you know him, but David Giller, AKA the Salesforce Whisperer. And welcome, David. Thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank
joining
you so much for
me.
having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I am even more excited just on the topic that we are focusing on, which I realize is brand new for a lot of people. So that makes it even more exciting for me. I'm such a geek.
I love it. I know we were prepping yesterday and just got lost in the conversation. It's so much fun to have somebody that's as excited about it as I am. And for all of you here today, thank you again. So appreciate it. Our topic today is Chat GPT secrets and how to advance your career. David just launched a course, which was so much fun. I took it earlier in the week and I was sharing with him yesterday that my favorite thing about the course, besides the incredible content, was just seeing the excitement on his face as he was showing things, because that's how I feel pretty much all day as I'm using it myself. So, David, for those who don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of
Sure.
background? Kind of, you have a great history and you have such a
Thank you.
fun niche of kind of focusing in on admins, and
Yep.
not everyone does that. And I love that you have that specific group that you spend so much time with.
Thank you. So, my name is David Giller. I am based in the New York City area, and my company is Brainy8. And as Brainy8, basically, we work with companies that are using Salesforce to use Salesforce in a more efficient way, in a more productive way, to get the ROI that they hope and expect when they first swipe the credit card to get the licenses, to help them realize those efficiencies, those benefits, to see the magic that they were expecting to get out of Salesforce. And with that, it's not only at the company level. I focus very much, because in the end, what is a company other than a logo and a building, or real estate or whatever? It's the people. So for me, I focus actually far more on the people at the company, whether it's someone in sales who's an end user, or the Salesforce admins, or the head of operations, or the head of IT, and helping them look like rock stars internally within their organization. So for me, it's about empowering those people that I work with at the clients that I interact with. And that also means teaching them the skills that are necessary, the best practices, and the things to look out for, the features to no, don't use those, and like, okay, you can build something cool, but that doesn't mean you should go do that in your own free developer org. Don't do that in production, kind of a thing. And that's essentially what I do, because I'm very much of an extrovert and a type A personality, and I'm totally out there. And my whole life, people have been saying, even as a child, people, teachers, parents, siblings, friends, David, shut up and sit down. Once I came into the Salesforce world, people are saying the exact opposite. No, 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 David, can you speak into the mic? There are some people who didn't hear. Can you repeat that again? Can you come say that, present that same topic again? So
Exactly.
here I am. I'm doing the same thing I've always done since birth, which is just sharing whatever it is that I'm thinking, really. And yes, I get giddy excited like a little kid who's a complete nerd on. It's really about solving problems. It's not even so much about technology. So yes, I'm a Salesforce consultant, I'm a Salesforce trainer, and I'm a blogger. But in the end, it has nothing to do with Salesforce. It has nothing to do with how many people are following me on social media. It has everything to do with solving problems for people and for companies. And honestly, just to bring it right back to ChatGPT, that's exactly why I am so over the top excited about ChatGPT. I honestly think what I'm about to say, by the way, I am not trying to be overly dramatic. I believe that the technology behind ChatGPT is going to change society the way the introduction of cars or the internet or refrigeration has changed society in a dramatic way. And for those of us who learn how to use it as a tool, because all it is a tool, just like Salesforce is a tool, just like a hammer is a tool, just like a smartphone is a tool. If you choose to use it as a paperweight, all you have is a paperweight. If you choose to not use it, you don't use it. That's fine. That's totally cool. But for those who choose to ignore it, let's not be surprised if in the end you're left in the dark. The same way, if you were to meet someone, anyone who's watching, if you were to meet someone today who says, I don't have a smartphone, I don't have internet, and I'm totally cool, my life is freaking amazing, good for them. But, and I'm not trying to sound negative or sarcastic or anything else, but there are many things that they happen to be missing out on because they're not tapping into these other tools that are available. And for Salesforce professionals, whether you're an admin, developer, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, for any professional, if you're a homemaker, if you are a teenager who's interested in starting a car washing business or a babysitting business, you can benefit dramatically from ChatGPT. It's insane. And every day I am blown away by what I uncover myself about ChatGPT, which is why I figured, since I sort of became addicted to this thing, I should start sharing this knowledge with the Salesforce community, who for the most part is ignoring it, just like a lot of other people. And like, okay, it's a shame if you're ignoring it, but there's really cool stuff that you can tap into here.
I so agree. And it actually was so much fun to talk to somebody that has that shared amazement, because for the most part, I would say that I met with like quizzical looks of like, why are you so excited? And I'm so looking forward to you doing a demonstration, then sharing some use cases of how, really in practical ways, how it really can make a difference. And I have an 11-year-old son, and he's building an app, and it's just fascinating to see what can happen. I agree with you. I think it is a complete game changer. And for those who will kind of step in early, I think you will be astounded by the time savings that you will uncover, and your ability to, I really like to think of it in doing things that are a lot higher level, where it's your creativity, your thinking. Like, honestly, I am happy to leave behind some of the drudgery hours and hours of work that I was doing every week to put things together, where now it literally
Exactly.
is, a couple minutes where it could have been 2 hours, 2 months ago. It's been really astounding. So, I really encourage everyone to put aside any skepticism, give us a chance to bring our excitement to you and share it. So, why don't we go ahead and what was it that really went from this being something novel that you were checking out? Because I know you were like me, one of the first in line when it was
Yep.
coming out, like, "What is this? Let me check it out." What was
Yep.
your first impression? And then what was it that switched you to thinking that, "Wow, this is something I could use every day for real?"
So actually, which I think makes it even more exciting, more ironic, I should say, is initially first of all, I'm very much a technology geek. I'm always like, now all of us take for granted like smart switches and smart plugs. And I, just being the geek that I am, I swapped all of the switches in my home to be smart switches before anyone knew what it was, and everyone was like, "You've got freaking like Star Trek going on in your home." And so my point is, I'm into the cool technology, so long as it solves a problem. It always has to be tied to solving a problem. So why am I bringing that up? Because I've been an early adopter of AI in a lot of different ways. I use a lot of different tools that have AI built into them, none of them nearly as powerful as ChatGPT. So let's get that out of the way. So even, for example, the camera that I'm using right now, I have the ability where if I do this to my camera and then I start moving around, it's going to follow me around like a cameraman. And I can do other hand gestures where it should zoom in and zoom out, things like that. So here I am now moving. So hang on, I got to turn it off by doing this again. And now it turns off. So you might think I'm looking weird, but whatever. Anyway, so when ChatGPT first came out, like November or so, I have already been using, for the last 2 years, I have already been using not one, but multiple AI tools specifically to help me with brainstorming and copywriting. So if like, perfect example, I'm working with a client and the client is putting me in a very frustrating, annoying situation, and my knee-jerk reaction is to write a scathing email and just ripping them apart. I'm like, I know I can't do that. And so I go into one of these AI tools and I basically say, here's the situation, here's the fact pattern, here's the message that I want to get across. And it puts a beautifully written, friendly, professional email. And like, oh my God, you just saved me from burning a client relationship. Thank you. So I've been using AI tools like that for quite a while. So when ChatGPT first came out, I was like, yeah, whatever. Kind of for writing stuff, I have this tool and it's freaking amazing. Like I really don't care. And then I started watching some YouTube videos where other people were showing how you can use ChatGPT for all kinds of stuff, including coding, including writing formulas in Excel. I'm like, okay, big whoop. And then I saw some other examples that essentially showed me how, yes, you can use it for like writing emails and writing blog articles and putting together presentations and things like that. But then I realized that you can use ChatGPT essentially as a personal coach of any kind. Now, when I say coach of any kind, you want to have a language coach to learn a new language. You want to learn a new skill. You want to learn leadership skills, communication skills. You want to learn project management skills. You want to learn how to be a better dog parent. You want to learn how to be a better parent. You want to learn how to be a better friend. Anything like that. You can use ChatGPT for any and all of these things. And to me, that's completely mind-blowing. It takes it over the top in an entirely different playing field than where I thought ChatGPT was all about. And then I started playing around with it, simply simulating the same things I saw on YouTube and applying it to the Salesforce world and applying it to my world. And that's when I realized this is the equivalent of having my own virtual personal assistant available 24/7, who is always attentive, is always smart, does not always get everything right. So let's get that out of the way.
Yes.
It does not always get everything right. So like, for example, if I put into ChatGPT, write a presentation or write a letter explaining to people how Mark Benioff really is Bill Gates reincarnated, it's going to do that. And it's going to sound like there's substance behind it. And so you can't rely on the accuracy of everything from ChatGPT. However, 80 to 90% of the time, it is spot on. It is completely accurate. But you need to have some foundational baseline knowledge and understanding before relying exclusively on what this platform can do for you. So basically, that was the moment for me when I realized that, oh my gosh, this is basically, this is any kind of consultant or coach that or assistant, a personal assistant that I need. And each time I started using it for various scenarios, I realized even more and more like, whoa, this can expand to so many different things.
Absolutely.
So every day I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't you take a moment,
Yep.
show an example just to give people just a flavor of what it can do when you actually know how to use it. And then we'll come back and really talk about some very practical applications in the
Yep.
Salesforce world.
So keep in mind that now as we're sharing my screen, I could go on and on. I could go on for hours, if not days, showing all different kinds of use cases that not only use cases that are applicable to anyone, use cases applicable to any Salesforce professional. But let's start with a simple one. Let's make believe that I am, and by the way, for those of you who are not familiar with the interface of ChatGPT because you've never logged in, first of all, you can create an account for free. It's completely free. I, by the way, am so addicted to this that I am paying for the $20 a month because first of all, when you try logging in, sometimes if there's high capacity, you can't log in. It basically says, we're too busy now, go away. Or I've used it so much within an hour that I get thrown off, you've used it too much. Or you could pay $20 a month. I'm like, hell yes, this is worth way more than $20 a month. So I'm going to start with a very common problem or scenario that Salesforce admins find themselves in. We are asked to help with a particular project or initiative within our organizations. And when we ask them, tell me a little bit more about your business process. Let's say we're working in a financial services company and they say, you know what, when we convert leads or when we work on deals, we have the following problem. And here are the things that we're hoping that we can do in Salesforce, or maybe they're not even using Salesforce today. They're using spreadsheets. We want to start doing it in Salesforce. So what is the Salesforce admin supposed to do? Have a conversation and say, not what do you want this pages to look like and how many checkboxes do you want? The question we should come back with is, what is your process? Can you tell me a little bit more? Forget about Salesforce. Teach me as if I am an employee doing the job of whatever process it is we're talking about. Show me and teach me how to do that job. And then when we turn to them and ask that question, more often than not, we get deer in the headlights because they have no idea, or each person has a different process, and then we don't know what to do. So how are we going to help them? What's the process that we're going to introduce in Salesforce for them? Excuse me. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use ChatGPT as a coach to help us identify let's start the conversation with the people in sales and marketing and operations. Let's start the conversation by putting together a baseline of a document that has at least a skeleton of a process for this type of industry, for this type of business, and let them at least poke holes in it. Let them at least say, no, that's not how we do it. Fine, then tell us how you do it. So this way we're starting off with something. So right now we're looking at, so by the way, sorry, I got derailed. What's going on the interface here? When you log into ChatGPT, on the left-hand side, basically what you see is, this is the equivalent of having multiple chats. So like if you're in WhatsApp or a messenger program, like having multiple chats with multiple people. However, it's all different chats or different threads of conversation with the AI, with ChatGPT. So what you see on the left-hand side are different things that I've been playing around with. And by the way, like every 5 minutes, I'm trying something else and some other random idea. As I'm walking my dog, I come up with an idea. And so I'm doing it for my phone. And I'm logged into ChatGPT on every device all the time. Anyway, so that's what you see going on the upper left-hand side. On the lower left-hand side, you see some other functional requirements, like if I wanted to clear the conversation, but I'm not going to do that right now. What you see in the main portion of the screen, we can ignore this on the top. We can ignore this over here. It's simply an indicator that I'm paying for the $20 a month plan. But down below, basically, we have, this is like the chat window where we're chatting with the AI. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, you are a business process analyst who is experienced with optimizing business processes for the financial services industry. More specifically, let's come up with something. More specifically, for equipment finance, deals. I am working on, let's say I am a Salesforce, or let's call it project manager, because really Salesforce doesn't play in. I am a project manager trying to identify the core, standard, typical business processes associated with managing a new equipment finance deal. Sadly, my colleagues, by the way, the more information you give, the better off you are. Sadly, my colleagues in sales are unable to articulate what their process is. Can you help write out for me what a typical process looks like for this type of business? Certainly, I can help you with that. Based on my experience in optimizing business processes for the financial services industry using equipment finance deals, including equipment finance deals, here's an outline of a typical process. Initial inquiry and information gathering. The process begins with a prospective customer contacts the equipment finance company expressing interest in financing equipment. The sales team usually handles the initial inquiry. Let's skip down. Credit analysis and underwriting, proposal preparation and approval, documentation and funding, post-closing services, end of lease or loan management. And okay, so that's I'm getting somewhere, but I need to take it a little bit further. Like, this is still far too generic for me. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's focus on the first step. I want to get more granular here. Let's focus on the first step. Can you help me identify what should be done during initial inquiry? Let's see what it gives me. So I'm going to scroll down, and you can see over here, it's basically saying, first you collect the basic information, then you qualify the prospect, then you assess the equipment, then you determine the customer's financing needs, then you explain the financing options, and all of that absolutely makes sense. But now I can cut and paste this into a Google Doc, and I can turn to the team and I'm like, is this what you do? When a brand new prospect reaches out, is this typically what you do? Now, by the way, so first of all, that can allow them to say, yeah, it's similar. We do it a little bit differently. Okay, great. Just fill in the details. Tell me what I should remove from this baseline of a document, because I have no idea. You didn't tell me anything. But by the way, by even doing that, it's now going to elevate the way they perceive you within the organization. And it's also educating you on what typical best practices are for businesses in this industry of this type working these kinds of deals. But now let's take it a step further. Let's go ahead and ask the AI, what are the typical data points that we need to capture at that initial stage? So I'm going to go in here and put in, can you write a table containing all of the data points we should capture? Let's put in that employees should capture at each stage along the initial intake of a new prospect. Watch what happens. It's basically giving me a framework to work with. And now that I have this, by the way, I can cut and paste this into Excel, into a Google Sheet. And now maybe I want to, so I'm preparing all this kind of documentation so that when I have my, let's say the first meeting of gathering business requirements got me nowhere. The second meeting, we're going to have some substantive stuff to talk about. So now I want to have even further, I want to have some questions that I can ask the team. Maybe I want to send it to them in advance of the meeting to basically tell them, look, during the meeting, this is what we're going to discuss. Can you prepare a list of questions for me to ask the sales team to get further clarification of what their processes are like and what their business requirements are. And watch this. It's now going to give me a list. It's writing everything out. Now, if I wanted to further break down this list, I'm going to do this. Can you rewrite this list to put the questions into groupings? Let's call it topical groupings, so that it's better organized. And now it's putting it into groupings. So basically, what I want to show you here is you can start off with just even a vague problem or thing that you want to focus on. And based on the responses that you're getting, you can take it as deep as you want. Now, watch this. I'm going to take it a step further. Let's say, okay, this is great. And I'm doing cartwheels. I'm doing a happy dance. I'm so excited for this upcoming meeting. And I basically want some help from ChatGPT to write the email to the stakeholders that I need to invite into this meeting because they think that they don't need to meet with me. So I want to have it prepare the email for me to invite them to the meeting and, take a load off of my back. Like I don't even know what words to write in this email. Can you please write a friendly, casual, but professional, and of course, optimistic email for me to send to these stakeholders who are really not interested in attending another meeting with me to discuss their business requirements because they think they already told me, already told me everything that I need to know. So you can just freeform, just talk to it like it's a person. Certainly, here's an example email that you should send. Dear stakeholder, I hope this email finds you well. I know we've already had a few meetings to discuss our equipment finance deal process and processes and requirements, and I really appreciate the time and insight you've already shared with me. However, I want to touch base with you again to see if we could schedule a follow-up meeting to further discuss some areas where we can work together to improve the process. Is that not freaking amazing? Now, by the way, you can stop me at any point, but I'm going to just do one more thing. I'm going to have it prepare the presentation that I should share during the meeting. Can you help me by preparing, by writing the presentation slide by slide of what I should, for me to use to facilitate this conversation with the sales team, leadership team. It's taking all of the insight, all of the information, all of the context that was talked about before, and now it's putting it within the framework of, it's baking it into the slides. I'm going to stop here because otherwise I could just keep going. I haven't been able to keep up with the chat thread to see what's going on over there, so I think I should be looking at.
Oh, well, I love there's some excitement, and what I wanted to ask you, so you have a lot of experience. So generally, you're going to be able to do things working with your clients faster than maybe many others in the Salesforce community, right? That don't have your level of experience. If you were to look back, this is a very real situation,
Yes.
and if you took each of the things that you just did, what's a conservative amount of time that would have taken you without ChatGPT to organize that, research it, prepare it, put it together, build, all of the deliverables that, and they may not be perfect, but they're close. But how much time do you think that would have taken you?
In the real world, when people are throwing ugly spreadsheets at you to upload into Salesforce and someone's asking, can you just change this one-page layout for me? And you get a notification from Salesforce about new features that you need to, just got activated, or expiring certificates that you need to see, like, do I even need to worry about this? So in the real world, because of all those other things that are going on, it would for sure take weeks, if not months, to put all of that together, for sure. If I had nothing else going on, it would absolutely take several days. It might take a full week to put all that together.
That's where, to me, it's stunning. It isn't that it's novel. It isn't, there's some really fun uses for it. I have a second mom for my kids. She was their nanny for 3.5 years, and she was visiting me in Oregon. Her husband was in New Mexico, and we had ChatGPT write him a poem. And it was like a love poem. I took it from ChatGPT, texted it to her, she texted it to him, and he thinks she wrote it. And he was like brought to teary eyes from this poem. It was so cute. She told me, like, what's a list of your favorite things? And it did this really romantic, awesome poem. But it's such a practical thing for those hours. That preparation isn't where your brilliance lies, right? It's how do you take all of that and you help that client solve problems, but you have to do that foundational work to be able to bring the value. So if you can get 10 plus hours back, what could you do with those hours to make a huge impact personally and professionally?
Precisely. So honestly, part of what is so incredibly exciting about ChatGPT is it allows each of us to, it's sort of like we're expanding our brain cell capacity through the use of this tool, the same way that we are using spell checker and Grammarly to help us to write, to write words in a way that is understandable and is grammatically correct. And although the scale of it is dramatically different from spell checker to using a tool like this, it allows us to tap into our own interests, our own responsibilities, our own business pursuits, in order to just really take it wherever we want. And I'll just give you two other quick real world examples how I've used ChatGPT just recently with two completely different clients. And by the way, there are some applications, when I say applications, some use cases where it gets far closer to like Salesforce configuration issues. And I do cover that in my course. And like, I don't even feel the need to cover that because I think some of these other use cases that I'm bringing up are so common and so insanely time consuming for Salesforce admins, where the amount of time that it takes to do the things that we're talking about is far more than creating a validation rule or a formula field in Salesforce. Like, big deal. So it saves you a few minutes. Like, so what? So two examples. One is I'm working with a particular client who's in the home healthcare business in New York City. And this particular client basically tells me that they have to comply with New York State Department of Health has a policy called SRIs, serious reportable incidents. And basically he tells me, look, we're not tracking it in Salesforce. I need your help to start tracking it in Salesforce. I say, okay, great. Introduce me to the person who's responsible for it and we can get moving. I need to understand what she does, how you guys do it. And I met with this woman and she was not insightful and not helpful whatsoever. It was like talking to a doorknob. So basically I turned to him and I'm like, what now? So he basically gave me all of the training materials that New York State gave him and said, you know what, David, you're a smart guy. You go ahead and read it and you figure it out and set it up for us in Salesforce. So, okay, fine. I read through the materials. I watched some videos and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to take me forever to document. Like, I understand it's not rocket science, this process. It's going to take me forever just to document what the process is all about and what are the data points that are associated to each step in the process. I'm like, let's try ChatGPT. So I went to ChatGPT and I basically put in the appropriate inputs. And I said, basically my request was, write an employee handbook so that we can teach our employees how to comply with the New York State Department of Health regulations regarding serious reportable incidents. Now, keep in mind, I've already read the materials. I know what it needs to go in there. I just don't have the time to put it together. It takes too much brain cell activity. So I hit submit and boom, it's done. Paragraphs, outlines, bulleted, it's all done. And then I said, okay, can you please create a table if we were going to use a spreadsheet to track all of the SRIs within our organization? What would that table look like? Done. I cut and pasted it, sent it to the client, and I asked, can you review this? And to let me know, like, does this make sense? Because to me, it makes sense. It matches everything that I read, but I don't know. I don't know what this process is like. Client's like, yeah, this is it. Make it live. Like, okay. So that was one. That saved weeks of work. The next one, and I told the client that I used ChatGPT to help me out. He doesn't care. So the next one is far simpler, but insanely cool. Actually, maybe this one I should show too. The community colleges in California. So let's go back to sharing the screen. And what I'm going to show you is, community colleges in California. So I have a client who's based in the state of California, and basically it's a nonprofit. And essentially, is it this one? Here, alphabetical listing. That's what I want. This is it. And essentially, they did not previously have community colleges in their database because they were not interacting with community colleges. I guess only, I don't know, other kind of colleges. So they turned to me and said, can you create some accounts for the community colleges? I said, sure. Do you happen to have a spreadsheet? I don't know what the community colleges are in California. Do you have a spreadsheet by any chance that has all of them? And they said, no. So I figured, okay, fine. I'll Google it. So I Googled it and I happened to come across this. Now, it could be that if I Googled more, if I scrolled more, I'll find a spreadsheet somewhere that I can download and I could just upload it for them into Salesforce. But instead, I landed on this. So I simply went here and I selected everything here. Now, for this simulation, I was just going to select some of them. And I'm just going to hit copy on my keyboard. And then I'm going to go here to start a new chat. And I'm going to say, can you please turn this into a table? And I'm just going to paste and hit enter and watch what happens. Not only did it create the headers for all of the columns, because let's look back at this tab. I started copying from here. There are no headers. So not only did it do that, notice how the names of the colleges are in all caps. It made it all normal. So all I have to do now is copy this, paste it into Excel or Google Sheets, export it as a CSV, import it into Salesforce, and I'm done. Like, it's that simple. Like, this is crazy stuff.
It is. For me, it was, I was doing a lot of different things, but I watched a YouTube video and it was I love to do social media, and it takes so much time. And the MVP, the new MVP list had been released, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do social media posts with quotes from the MVPs? And so I asked ChatGPT, like, can you give me a list of MVPs and their like quotes that they're known for in a table? It did that, and then there's a way to upload it right into Canva, and it just auto populated. I had one format that I loved with the color, the quote, the person, and it just made 50 of them in it took me less than 2 minutes. That would have taken me I mean at least 5 hours over time. So it was amazing. So it was just some of those that wasn't a core essential like you're
Right.
talking about, but it's something I want to do and really enjoy doing. So I love the reactions now. We're getting some more exclamation points.
It's just it's mind-blowing every day. Like, my family makes fun of me, by the way, for it, and whatever. They're watching me like I'm on the computer. I'm doing work. It's not that I'm just trying to dream up other use cases to use ChatGPT. These are real world scenarios that I'm doing in the course of my job, and I'm leveraging ChatGPT for most of them, to the point where I basically people ask me, like, if I send an email, they're like, "Did you write that or ChatGPT?" And I've reached a point where I say, if my mouth is moving or you got any words from me, just assume it came from ChatGPT. Just assume that it's fine.
I
Where my whole
know.
family's making fun of me, they're like, you freaking doing it again? I mean, they're watching me sit there and I'm just giddy all the time. But yeah,
Uh,
it's very, very exciting.
it really is, and I want to take a moment, and that we could go on and on. There's so many examples, and I would say it's important to be a little patient in learning. But you've got a couple things to share, and I'm going to pull up a QR code
Yep.
that'll be up above my head here. That is a Chat GPT pack. Can you? And this is
Yes.
free. Can you share that with folks, please?
Absolutely. So basically, that starter pack, it's a PDF. It's completely free. It's a PDF that basically think of it as the accelerated path to get you to start playing around with ChatGPT in ways that will rock your world. And I'm giving you the foundational elements. Think of it like pieces of Lego, where you can do whatever you want with it. That's what you're going to get with the ChatGPT pack. So basically, it's think of it as like swipe files if you're familiar with that terminology. Just copy it and paste it into ChatGPT and fill in the blanks, or Mad Libs kind of a thing. Just fill in the blanks to do whatever you want, and you will start amazing yourself. And I guarantee that all of you, based on your role, based on the company that you have, based on the goals that you have, what you're trying to accomplish, the struggles that you're faced with, you're going to learn things that I know nothing about. I didn't even think of doing this. This happens all the time. So, by the way, I want to hear about those things because I want to learn.
Me too.
So that's what you have in that ChatGPT starter pack. So I encourage all of you, completely free. Go ahead and download it and start using it and get creative, and you'll have a lot of fun. Most people who start playing around with it on their own, they're faced with the blank screen. They put in some nonsensical. They don't know how to construct a prompt. So there's this concept of prompt engineering, and basically what that means is the way you structure the inputs that you put in into ChatGPT. So you need to know what is the best way to do that. Now, because it's sort of open format, loosey goosey, you can text whatever you want. It's both wonderful and horrible. It could be super intimidating. You could end up putting in something that garbage in, garbage out. The system has no idea what to really do with the inputs that you gave. I've been, as I mentioned before, obsessing about ChatGPT over the last couple of weeks. I've been consuming a ton of information. I synthesized the best piece, what I think are the best pieces for all of you to get moving as quickly as possible in the most effective way possible. So that's what you're going to have with that starter pack. Now, if you play with the starter pack and you're amazed, then hopefully you will feel enticed to sign up for my course. So this course, I guarantee that if you do the things that I'm showing you in this course, you do it in your real job, guaranteed you're going to freaking impress everyone that you're working with. They're going to be like, how the hell did you do that? Like, how did you explain that problem or that issue that we're having on a project in such an articulate way? like they're going to be impressed with all of it, let alone it's going to help your career in a lot of, in probably in ways that none of us have imagined. So basically in this course, I take it way further and I start sharing examples how within the typical career of being a Salesforce admin, and you're working on projects, whether it's gathering business requirements or dealing with the project scope or trying to get stakeholders engaged or dealing with UAT testers who don't want to do UAT testing, or even announcing here are the updates, or sending emails about an upcoming meeting, or here's the agenda of what we discussed in the meeting. So I take in this course, I take you through a lot of these use cases. And yes, I also cover things like how to troubleshoot Salesforce end user issues. Like, so when an end user said, how come on my screen when I go to this contact, the email address is editable and it shouldn't be? Or how come I don't see the blah, blah, blah field when I should be? So I also give you prompts and I teach you and show you how to use ChatGPT to troubleshoot all of those issues, as well as creating formula fields and validation rules, and even asking it for ideas on how to design, how to construct a flow. And it's not going to build the flow for you, but it's going to explain to you, like, here's the best practices for structuring the logic of what you want to implement. Again, keep in mind, it's not always perfect. So sometimes it's going to talk about Salesforce features that just don't exist. And you need to know that. So you need to like take it with a grain of salt, but still it will still take you far further using this tool than if you had not used this tool.
Yes. And I have to say, I thought that the $24.99 was for the prompts because I'm on your email list. And because as soon as it came out, I took a course that was one of the first ones that was offered for 197. So I just assumed that it was for the prompt. So I immediately got it, mostly because I wanted to have you on as a guest, because I've been trying so hard to get people to take the time to do it, because I'm so amazed by it. And you do a brilliant job of, one, this is like, it's a no-brainer, and it says it's for admins, it's framed that way, but it's for every single person who hasn't used Chat GPT, in my opinion. You do a really nice job of just like, this is like logging in, how to start, here's prompts, and then here's some use cases and other resources. So I really encourage, yeah, I kind of almost sent you back a note. I'm like, I think you left off a 0. But anyway, I encourage you
Honestly,
all.
from my perspective, like I mentioned before, the huge drive that I have with everything that I do, it's, and maybe this sucks from a business perspective, but the drive behind everything that I do is about helping to solve problems for others and empowering others. And for me, figured $24.99 for a course like this, if this can encourage others, if it reduces the barrier to help others to learn how to be more insightful, more productive, how to present themselves as far smarter, how to solve problems easier and more professional ways, and help guide them with their career, then it's worth it for me to basically hear those stories afterwards, to hear the impact that it has for other people. It's completely worth it for me versus adding another 0 to the end of the price of the course.
So take
But thank
advantage of
you.
it while you can. But I would say there's just so many creative, there's a lot of the community that participates on Lorien Lives are in career, they're job seekers, they're people that may have found themselves unexpectedly looking for roles. And I think there's so many creative ways to use ChatGPT to improve everything about your LinkedIn profile, your headline, your about section. And what you all may not have heard yet, but you will soon, is LinkedIn is integrating tools into it. So if you don't have a premium account, this is a great time to consider it. It's well worth it if you're especially in a job search mode, but they're integrating some really fabulous tools, and it's built through API connection to ChatGPT. So you're going to see ChatGPT in all kinds of businesses and entrepreneurial ventures. So, but one of the things, David, I think from even if somebody doesn't feel so inclined or really compelled to do it for their day to day, I think from a career perspective,
Yep.
whether it's getting promotions or finding new opportunities, I think it's critical to get familiar with it, understand that AI, this is a total tipping point. So nothing's going to be the same, and there's going to be so many tools. So instead of being fearful, like embrace it. Maybe you can give some perspective on we and you and I didn't talk about this before, but a couple of people asked the question about
Sure.
Einstein GPT or some of the Salesforce specific AI tools.
Yeah.
Anything you want to share? And if anybody has questions, we'll actually shift over and answer some questions in a few.
Yeah. So Einstein GPT. Now, for those of you who know me, you know that I tend to speak without a filter, meaning I say what I think. I don't candy coat it. I'm not saying that like controversial words come out of my mouth. No, it's just that I say what I think. So, for example, talk to me about certain features in Salesforce, like multi-select pick lists or person accounts, and you're going to see steam come out of my ears. My face is going to get red, and I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. Anyway, so when it comes to Einstein GPT, no, I have not used it, but I have seen some of the demos, and the demos, as we see with any Salesforce demo, any Salesforce promotional video, it looks freaking amazing. What most of us have experienced when Salesforce releases a brand new product of any kind is that the reality is far less impressive than the demo that we saw initially. Like for those of you who are in the Salesforce ecosystem, when Lightning first came out, it was half baked. Like there's no way you can't use this thing, like hello. So with Einstein GPT, let's assume that when it is actually available, it works exactly the way they say that it will. And I think that what this does, as far as helping for sales reps or Salesforce end users to communicate more effectively with customers, with prospects, I think that is freaking amazing. I think it's absolutely wonderful. By the way, you could do a lot of those things now with, like, for example, some of the Chrome plugins that I highlight in my course. You could do that now completely for free with a Chrome plugin. So no, it's not, ChatGPT is not going to know the context of who this contact is and what the size of the deal is or what stage the deal is in or anything, or what company they or industry they work in. But you could be in Salesforce and you can have a window open in ChatGPT to write whatever email you want, or you could be in your Outlook window or in your Gmail window, and you can do the same thing. I can't say the exact same thing because what they show in the demos is that Einstein GPT takes into account the context of the record that is associated to the person that you're emailing. But so most of it, a lot of it you can do. However, there are certain aspects of Einstein GPT that were demoed that have been announced that I think is going to be completely fascinating, and it will absolutely rock the Salesforce world, probably in ways that aren't all that wonderful. What I mean is this. They say that Einstein GPT will allow people, Salesforce users, I'm assuming it's a user with system admin access, and most of us know that there are many people who are not qualified to have system admin permissions, like the CEO of a company, and they do have, or the CEO's teenage son who interned during the summer has system admin permissions because it's more of an ego thing than anything else. And if that person has the access to do some of these things, for example, to ask Einstein GPT to build new automation, to build new Apex code, to develop a Lightning web component, all hell will break loose. I mean, they're going to be introducing disasters into their production org. Of course, they're not going to be doing it in a sandbox. Now, by the way, what this also means is that for those of us who are Salesforce professionals, whether it's a Salesforce admin, Salesforce developer, if you position yourself as the order taker, if you position yourself as the person when someone comes to you asking, hey, can you create a new custom page layout for me? Can you create a new checkbox for me? Can you create a custom button for me? Can you introduce the following type of automation? And all you do is ask them, okay, what did you want to call it? On what page did you want it? Okay, sure, I'll have it by the end of the day, by the end of the week, whatever. And if you're not pushing back to ask, wait, what are the business requirements here? What is the business problem that we're trying to solve? If you're not doing that, and there are sadly many Salesforce professionals who don't ask those questions. They don't push back. They don't get clarifying information. They don't understand the business process. They simply do whatever because they think that that's how I'm going to get promoted. I do whatever the head of sales asks for. That's how I get promoted. If that's all you do, you've turned yourself into a commodity because you're not adding value. You're simply the monkey who's doing the thing that the person who's asking you, they don't know how to do it themselves. So if now we have this thing called Einstein GPT that can do it instead of you, I guarantee that Salesforce account executives are going to turn to the business leaders within the organizations that are responsible for Salesforce, and they're going to say, listen, pay us this premium, whatever it costs for Einstein GPT, and by doing that, you can get rid of some of those admins and developers. You don't need them anymore. You have people who are developing code, customizing page layouts, building flows. You don't need them anymore because Einstein GPT can do that. Whether it's justified or not, whether it's true or not, that's what they're going to say. Like they're going, and by the way, if you as the Salesforce admin, the Salesforce developer, Salesforce project manager, if you're proving them right because you're not a problem solver, you better believe it that business leader, they're going to say, that makes a lot of sense. I can get rid of how many headcounts by bringing on this other tool. So even more so, for all of you watching this, you need to use ChatGPT. Even if you've never positioned yourself as a problem solver before, you need to use ChatGPT to position yourself, to learn how to position yourself as a problem solver, to push back. Not push back as in like, no, I'm not doing what you want. No, to push back as in, I'm here to solve problems. I'm not here to create more clutter on your screens. We need to know who needs this. Why do they need it? What do you plan on doing with it? Whatever this thing is that you're asking for. You can use ChatGPT in order to help you with that. Now, by the way, if you are not sure on how to use ChatGPT for any of those things, or you don't want to use ChatGPT for any of those things, everything that I'm talking about right now, that is basically the core topics, the core perspective that I take on essentially everything that I do within Brainy 8 Academy, within my blog, etc. I am essentially focusing tremendously on trying to encourage Salesforce professionals to level up their communication skills, their leadership skills, their negotiation skills, their problem-solving skills, their project management skills, their business requirements gathering skills. I can keep going on, because those are the things that an AI is, at least not yet, able to replace you with, or for, whatever the terminology is, whatever. So that's my take on Einstein GPT and how I think Salesforce professionals need to proactively take action to protect yourselves and to extend your careers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, part of doing the course, so I knew how to use ChatGPT. So I wasn't taking your course to learn ChatGPT, but as you were using it for Salesforce specific situations, I was going back to when I worked for Regents Blue Cross Blue Shield and was the sales manager, and we had a team of sales reps, and I was part of the team that evaluated different vendors, and we landed on Salesforce. And that whole project was incredibly painful because I had to rely on, there was project managers and there was developers, and there was all these different people that would come in and out. And I didn't know what I didn't know.
Exactly.
I didn't have any idea what to ask. And all I could think about is, oh my gosh, I could have spent 10 minutes the day before my meeting, ask ChatGPT what a project manager, one, what did they do with this kind of a project, and what questions should I be asking? Honestly, it would have been such a different outcome. My personal experience, the way that I looked in meetings, I didn't even know what questions to ask, and it was so difficult. That's why I got certified, honestly, is because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't even know where to start. But getting certified still didn't help me understand what a project manager for a big implementation did. So
yes, because in the end, when it comes to most of the Salesforce certifications, or let's focus on the most popular Salesforce certifications, which are along the lines of admin, advanced admin, developer, etc., all those certifications, all they're focusing on is to make sure that's basically a glorified user manual, that you know how to use the features knowing how to use the features and knowing when or why to use the features, or when not to use the features, or what questions you should ask before you go and use this feature. That's a whole different ballgame. And that's not covered in those kinds of certifications. And most Salesforce professionals have not been formally trained on any of these things, whereas anyone who's a project manager in any field, in any industry, project manager, business analyst, are highly experienced, like in these concepts where they know that there's a lot that they don't know. They know that there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered before we roll up our sleeves to do anything. And as Salesforce admins, all too often folks are so eager to get ahead and get the job and get into the org and get into production and update the page layout 5 minutes after someone asked me to update the page layout, that we sort of forget to back it up a little bit. What the heck are we trying to do? Well, we might be introducing more problems than we had before. Like, what are we trying to solve for here? And to me, that's a painful, glaring void that I am personally seeing within the Salesforce ecosystem. And that's where I'm just a drop in the bucket, but I'm trying to help others who are at least open to understanding that this void exists and this void can impact them, to take action to fill that void, at least for themselves. And honestly, ChatGPT can do a lot of that also. So in some ways, ChatGPT is sort of like my competition. Like, you don't necessarily have to consume any of my insights or wisdom or best practices or courses. Go to ChatGPT, but you need to know what to ask. But you need to get it from ChatGPT. And even if it's only 90% correct, even if it's only 80% correct, you'll be far more ahead.
It can pass the test, not for real, of course, not suggesting that, but you can actually talk through the questions and answers, and I didn't understand this, and it can give you just the detailed. You can ask it to explain it like I'm a fifth grader, so that it can, if
Exactly.
you're having trouble understanding. But I'd say one tip that's great for those of you who are looking for opportunities, and it works great for consultants as well. When you're interviewing or when you're exploring companies, you could do a deep dive. So let's say you are going to be interviewing with Southwest Airlines, and you can ask for a report, really detailed report about the airline industry. You can take the research and pull in information and say, what are some really innovative questions I can ask? Like, I've learned that they're in doing this whole project with Marketing Cloud, and ask some really innovative questions. Now, if you're a consultant, right, that's your job. But if you're somebody that's being interviewed, and instead of asking the 20 most common things that everyone's hearing, you can ask something that is diving into their vision and their next round of projects, it will help you stand out. And it just can do it in an amount of time that for most of us who are really busy, you could get to it by spending 8 hours putting it all together, or you can spend 15 minutes and have something that's going to really help you stand out, whether it's in your job or searching for a job.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's just really incredible because it opens up so many doors of opportunity. And look, in some ways we could say, how is it really that different from Google? Because you could Google anything. You could Google what questions to ask on an interview for, when you're going on an interview for this kind of a role in this type of a company, but it's going to take far longer, even with Google, to figure out which of these search results are the ones that actually have the answers that I need. Whereas this is just giving it to you, but even more so, like all of you saw in the simulation that I did earlier, you can ask follow-up questions and you can ask clarifying questions. I can't tell you how many times like I got an output from ChatGPT and I'm like, okay, that's all cool, but you sort of, what about this topic? Like, hello, you didn't mention that. It apologizes. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me rewrite it for you and include that. I'm like, okay, great, thanks.
You
Like,
did the
again, that's
same
everyone's Google search.
thing I do, that you're nice to it, right? Like please. And I noticed that through the course, and I do the same thing. I'm like, thanks, it's amazing. And it'll respond back like a conversation.
Can't
There
tell you how many times I've responded to ChatGPT by saying, I love you, you're the best.
I'm not going to admit to that, but I'm turning red just thinking about it. No, it's stunning, and it's like no comparison to Google in my mind. Like, it's
Right.
just it's like no comparison. But I would say one caveat for those of you here: please don't put anything that's sensitive information,
Right.
no code that's at your company. No, that's one thing we don't know yet of what's happening with it. So for all of you that work for a company, be very, very cautious. And I would certainly recommend not putting anything that you couldn't, leave out on a photocopier. Just
Right.
be careful with that. That's
Right.
that's
So if you want to, so with that in mind, I agree 100%. With that in mind, if you want to basically get insights on how to respond to a particular problem situation that you have at work, just be generic about it. You don't have to give the name
yeah,
of the company. You don't have to give the names of the people. You can make up the name. Let's say you have 3 different people: the head of sales, the head of marketing, the head of IT, that you're struggling with, to get them engaged in the project. And you're asking ChatGPT, what do I do with these 3 people? Give them fictitious names. I've done that. I've got George Washington, Betty White, and Abraham Lincoln. Okay, one is the head of sales, one's the head of marketing, one's IT. So it'll
yeah,
give you the responses, and at least you know how to swap it back. This way, you're
yeah.
not putting private information in there, because we don't know where it's going right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd say one other best practice is keep a Google Doc or somewhere that you keep your prompts that you like. So then all you have to do is cut and paste it, and you might change out, the topic, but there's certain things you're going to do some work to create things that you love the way it comes out. You can have that tone of voice. So you could say, I want to be snarky, if you're trying to be funny, or you need to be professional, or I struggle with being too formal. And so I'll run it through and say, can you be friendly and casual? And it comes out so much better it at times. So things that you need to adapt, you can do that. But once you get it right, keep it, because it's going to give you back the same response. So the time savings you have on in one end, over time, it's going to be so much better. So David,
Absolutely.
any kind of last we'll at the end we'll bring back up the course. I
Yep.
really
Yep.
encourage people to take advantage of that. But any other kind of last words of wisdom before we
Two
wrap
other
up?
things I'll mention. So the first one is just following up on the last thread on saving the prompts. And yes, I agree 100%. And by the way, like I started doing that, and then I discovered a Google Chrome extension that basically has prompts for you. Basically, when you're logged into ChatGPT, it's right there. And I learned how to use, because it's another learning curve to learn how to use that Chrome extension to create my own prompts, to the point where I can churn out some insanely customized, targeted content that I need to, by writing like 1 or 2 words, and it will give me an extensive output of multiple kinds in the tone that I want, of exactly what I want. And I share some of that in the course. So that's the first thing that I'll say in the course. I share about like how you can use these Chrome extensions to really supercharge your productivity. And the other thing that I'll share is that in Brainy8 Academy, so it's brainy8.academy, by the way, the URL, you will see, and you'll get to it regardless of which of these QR codes you scan. You will also see there's another free resource that I just made available last night. I didn't even get a chance to chat with you about it. There's another free resource that I just made available last night, which is the 101 prompts, ChatGPT prompts to advance your career. And basically what that is are more career guidance related. So if you're interviewing, if you're job hunting, if you're trying to figure out what kind of role should I have, what kind of company should I explore, what are the skills that I'm lacking, how can ChatGPT, how can you help me prepare for the Salesforce admin certification exam? Like, test me on Salesforce, my Salesforce knowledge, like really crazy stuff. So I created that, and I put that together. Plus that particular freebie is actually sponsored by Conga. So for those of you who are working in organizations where your colleagues are cutting and pasting data from Salesforce into Microsoft Word documents, and you're trying to make them realize like there are solutions like Conga Composer to automate all of this, and they just don't care. I also put in prompts in there to help you get them engaged, to have the conversation, to identify how painful is this for you, and to help you get them to realize that there are more efficient ways to do this for example, with Konica Composer. And those prompts are like really over the top. Whatever. I'll just leave it there. That's it.
I love it. I love it. And I know that we have run out of time for
Yes.
today. Those of you who have put questions in the chat will come back, answer those questions. And thank you to those of you. I could see you adding links for people who are on their phones and couldn't use the QR code. So I'm grateful for you jumping in and doing that. And David,
Awesome.
thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you for
me. This
having
was
me. I'm
so much
excited to be
fun.
here
I
and
could
share.
spend
Thank you.
the rest of the day doing this, but for now, we'll
Absolutely.
say goodbye. So next week on Thursday, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern, we'll be back for Lorien Live, and I'm actually going to be sharing a book that I'm launching. But I'm going to give you so many of the resources, and your 101 is perfect timing because it is all about how to use ChatGPT as a career coach and really taking advantage of it for those of you who are in that process. It will save
Amazing.
you time and really boost. So thank you all for being here. So appreciate it.